Well, gentlemen, we've proven two things this morning. Number one is that we're all big enough nerds to get up at 5 a.m. to talk about Catholic things, which I do love, except for you, Ryan, because your phone is silly. The second thing we've proven is that we're also just so cool that we have to wear hats in the garage without any sunlight. Michael is so cool that he wears a t-shirt with hats on it as well.
How much do I love hats? Enough that I wear them on my t-shirt as well.
Yeah, but those are distinguished gentleman hats.
They are.
Only Michael could pull those. No, nobody else at this table could pull those off.
Those hats are the ones from the gentleman, the British mobster
so
hat.
It's interesting. I'm interested. It's curious you say that. You could not be farther from the truth, actually, with what those are. These are cycling caps. So while most of y'all are talking about football and baseball, I'll go on and on about cycling.
I'm uncultured swine, Ryan.
Probably the only guy in Auburn who has a shirt with cycling caps on it.
Like Tour de France.
Tour de France.
Really?
Professional Lance Armstrong back in the day.
Really? I can't imagine that's very entertaining to watch on television, though. Live?
Everybody says Gene
you
still
go
gives me a
to
hard
a
time.
race, I guess, maybe.
I have.
Who's your favorite right now?
See, that's interesting because I don't necessarily have favorite cyclists like other people would have, maybe other athletes.
Country, maybe.
You tend to have favorite teams, because it's as much as it's an individual sport and you have a winner, it's very much a team sport. So it's actually, once you get into the intricacies, there's a lot of strategy involved. There's sacrificial riders who are just there to help the leader in yellow. There's the sprint leader. So the green jersey is the fastest sprinter. Polka dot, best mountain climber. So the best climber. And then the best new young rider. So under the age of 24. So best young rider, polka dot jersey, king of the mountains, sprinter, overall leader.
Well, that is the new thing I learned today. You know who probably doesn't have a cool cycling cap is Charlie Wilder, because he rides that silly e-bike. Michael, this is your chance.
On e-bikes. Don't get me started on e-bike. I'm just kidding. To each their own. As they say on the trail. Hike your own hike. Bike your own bike, maybe.
We're not here to bash anybody.
We're not. We love
Charlie. Michael's out to get you today.
I love Charlie.
And not only is that shirt elite, we were just commenting. So we'll get into this in a second. But Michael did spend some time in, don't tell me, Manhattan, Kansas.
You got it. The Little Apple.
Got it. Manhattan, Kansas. Kansas State. Go Wildcats.
Yep.
That cup is just excellent. You should have won the lavender, though.
I still have a lavender shirt. Yeah, I could have really, I'm mixing and matching here a little bit with my current affiliation.
Someday, after Alex and I, try not to die on a half marathon, because that's the level we're at. If we ever get into cycling, we know who to call.
Absolutely.
Do you actually have a road bike?
Multiple.
Really?
Yeah.
Love it. Do you have the little stand you can ride it in the house?
I do. I haven't used it much. That's what's nice about here, actually, because winters are no longer riding in snow or in a cold garage, because you can actually get out most of the year round.
That is excellent.
So, yeah.
I had a buddy who was living in D.C. through his medical school, and he had one. And he would get up every morning before they had kids.
Yep.
Just turn something on the television and haul it for God knows how many miles in the living room. But it does seem
treadmill
like a really
version of the bike. Yeah.
Really
spin.
Exercise.
Low impact. Yeah. Glad I could expand your guys' minds this morning.
And that's not it. Folks, welcome back to the garage, the Catholic Dad Pod. I guess season 2. That's what we're calling it.
Sure.
Why not? We've missed you all. You might not have missed us, but you're still stuck with us. So here we go. It's 2026, hard to believe. And we're kicking this off. We're kicking this off with a good friend and a guest I've especially been poking and prying at for a bit to get in here. And I finally got you right where I want you.
Lots of hemming and hawing.
That's right.
I'm here.
Michael Brunson. We'll get into Michael in a minute, but tell me, folks, how's 2026 going? What New Year's resolutions do we have? What are we focusing on in the spiritual life? Give me the quicks. Ryan, go ahead.
2026 is off to a good start in my house. We had an awesome Christmas, kind of my son's first excited to open presents Christmas. And he's at that perfect balance of he's not so old that like he's gonna be like, where are all the rest of the toys?
Yeah.
But
One on to the next.
you know, the basketball goal, the push lawnmower, and if he got nothing else, he'd be stoked. But like little sentimental gifts, like my grandmother, my grandmother, his grandmother recorded a bunch of stories for his little Tony box. And anyway, beautiful Christmas. Always love time home and getting to just be present as much as possible. But yeah, the New Year's been really good. I normally, most teachers will tell you like, you go back after that Christmas break and it's like dreaded return to work. I don't have that. I just really enjoying where I'm at. It's busy for sure. Thankfully, praise God, we're starting to get ready for the retreat that we're going to be putting on at our parish that we're going to drag Michael to kicking and screaming. And so that's been really fruitful as well, even in the 1 or 2 meetings we've had already. And spiritually for me, I'm excited to finish the Bible, which I'm not ashamed. I am a little bit ashamed to say that I've never made it cover to cover. And so I am making good progress. I'm over halfway there. That's my goal. My New Year's resolution, though, is really getting ready for my race, is to stop eating like fatty and to limit my portions at the table. But that's easier said than done when your wife cooks such fantastic food. But I'm very glad you're here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. What about you guys?
Get us moving.
Yeah. So excited to be here, despite, maybe those initial hesitations. And yeah, Alex had to do some prying. But no, excited to be here. It's great, and really have enjoyed listening to you guys. And I remember telling you, Alex, early on, especially, and I'll obviously get into this with my history a little bit, but being a convert, it's just been awesome, even just from a learning standpoint, hearing you guys and developing, kind of working hand in hand with developing my own faith. So thank you for what you guys have been doing with this. It's been great. Yeah, great Christmas, great holiday season. We hosted for the first time. My folks came in from Arizona, so we made the decision a couple years ago, once our eldest Mary turned, I guess, 3 or so. We're like, all right, she's getting to that age where she can start recognizing what Christmas is and the holidays. So we're home now. We're not traveling as much as we love visiting family and things like that around Christmas. We're staying here. So we've been home at Christmas, but my folks came in from Flagstaff, Arizona. So they got some great grandparent time and love that. I feel like I'm still coming down off the holidays, like especially having my parents here and like feeling like a kid myself during the holidays. I'm still kind of lamenting Christmas being over. I'm like, man, put our tree down the other day and decorations came down. I'm very impressed that your tree is still up.
We went with the birch approach here. We're waiting till the baptism of Jesus, and then
Okay.
we're gonna take it down. So at the time of filming, at the time of release, that'll be past. But
Yeah.
right now, guys, don't
Good
judge
on
me.
you.
My tree's
Good on
still
you.
up.
No
Yeah.
judgment. No judgment. But yeah, we had a great Christmas and very different experience, even with a 5-year-old now, because Mary just turned 5 before Christmas. And we were already expecting like going through presents just one after the other. We had to like force her to finish opening presents. It was like 10 o'clock in the morning and we were still opening presents. So that was a surprise, but it was nice. And then New Year, I feel like my years are just based around the academic calendar. It's like, oh, New Year, spring semester starting. But it's good. Classes just started this week. So just getting into the groove of that again. And I don't do resolutions really anymore. I actually just saw this thing the other day. Like not as a cop out, but it's like, you just went through the holidays. Everybody's tired. You were probably visiting family or hosting. Everybody's wiped. This is not the time to like take on new challenges. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to go with that approach and just like be present, be with my family. So maybe it's a cop out, but that's where I'm at right now.
Love it.
But it's a good start. Good start to the year.
Yes, indeed. Amazingly, our real tree, which is still up, is still giving off like wonderful smells. I have to say, this tree is very impressive.
Is it a
this
Fraser?
year. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those are the
Oh yeah.
best.
It's awesome. Wonderful holidays. I'll make it quick. The new year has been good so far. I'm trying to, the sweets, they're gone. None. Zero. And, keeping running, got to run this half with Ryan in a couple months. Funny enough, Word on Fire, Ryan and I have a little affiliate with them, but sent a couple children's books. They also sent the January Liturgy of the Hours, and I've been praying it every day. And the Liturgy of the Hours has been wonderful. I have to say, I'd never done that before.
Have you been doing all of them? Tess and I just started with the Comp Line, the night prayer.
Morning, evening, bedtime. Yep. All three. Yep. I do the morning prayer at lunch at work. It's the only time I can. And then I do the evening prayer. Generally, when I get home, it's either with the family, I'll just read it all out loud as we're like cooking dinner, or maybe if it's really hectic, right after they go to bed, first thing I do. And then the bedtime prayer is literally in the bed and then lights out. And I've just really, really enjoyed it. It's a nice way to center myself, focus more on the Lord. Lucy and I are back to praying our nightly rosaries and clean up the diet. And no, it's good. I'm definitely trying to keep my mind where it should be. I think that's the biggest thing. Not really a New Year's resolution, but once the holidays slow down, just make that pivot and like you said, Michael, be fully present, which is great.
Glad you mentioned the Liturgy of the Hours, because that's been really fruitful for Tess and I. It was almost like we were trying to find a way to deepen our prayer life, and then Word on Fire sends the Liturgy of the Hours. So we're probably going to get the subscription and get the monthly shipping in that gives us each month's prayers right there. Dean loves to play with the book, actually. But we got to watch. We got to be careful with the pages. But that reminds me, guys, we are an affiliate for Word on Fire, and in every episode description, if there's anything that you're looking to deepen your prayer life, to learn a little bit more, or to help the kids learn, go check out Word on Fire. Everything you could possibly want. They have an excellent selection. Children's books that they've sent, that we've received from them, are just outstanding. Like even Dean, who doesn't read and comprehends most of what he's hearing, he loves them. The pictures, everything is beautiful. Can't wait to work through the Story of Stories Bible, the children's Bible. So check them out. Use our link in the description of this episode, and you'll give a little donation to our show as well. And guys, I know the holidays just wrapped up, but we do have cool t-shirts. If you forgot to give a gift to somebody, or you want to give a gift to yourself, we've got some beautiful comfort color t-shirts with our awesome St. Joseph logo right there. You can't go wrong putting the terror of demons on your back while you're walking around. So check out thecatholicdadpod.com and go grab your t-shirt. But this is usually one of our most colorful segments. First impressions. Alex, take it away.
Excellent. All right. This is actually a nice story. I enjoy telling it. I'll probably disappoint you all, but the first time I met Michael was at the farmer's market in like May or June. Actually, I was thinking about that on the way here. I was like, oh yeah, marriage and family, how it went. Oh no, that wasn't it. Yeah. So Michael is pushing Sophie in the stroller, and Jean and Mary weren't with you at that time. They were doing something else. Right. We were just kind of hanging out. Right. And I just saw Michael's hat. It had the Appalachian Trail AT on it. And I've always kind of been mystified by the AT. I find it very, this will sound cheesy, but it kind of calls to me. It's something I'd love to do one day. My uncle walked a good bit of it last year. And the little short book I wrote, the AT actually plays a big part in it, so I saw the hat and I was just like, hey man, AT, that's really cool. I asked him if he walked it, and sure enough, he's like, oh yeah, walked the whole thing. I was like, wow, so we talked about that and met Michael, and then immediately Michael and talking to you, I just thought this is a very nice, likable guy. I mean, very much so. Very, very easy to see that. And then his wife came up and she's wearing her miraculous medal. I said, is that a miraculous medal? And, then the wheels are turning like, all right, we've got some Catholicism here. We got the ends. And that was it. I think I got your number that day.
Yeah, we might have exchanged numbers.
Yes,
I know there's a little bit of conversation about the parish and
yes, exactly.
I think we had been at that point at least once or twice. Yeah.
Knowing me, I probably mentioned the Acts retreat to you. I probably did.
Yeah. Did you know we have a retreat?
Exactly. And Michael thought, whoa there. But and then then y'all popped up in Marriage and Family, and there y'all were, man. And we were spent more and more evenings together and got to know the family, and now I consider you and your family, very dear friends. And it's been wonderful. So yeah, of course. I guess you can do me now, and then we'll flip flop to you and Ryan. What do you got?
Okay. Yeah, no, I was rehashing that story in my mind too, preparing myself for the first impression, and yeah, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. I think I just remember you coming up and be like, "Hey, do you like it?" or something. You might have been a little more specific. I had to remember what hat I was wearing or something probably, but yeah, I feel like that was one of those almost cliche farmers market interactions where meet another young couple. But yeah, I just remember. I think coming away from that, and especially after those first couple of meetings at Marriage Family, just thinking like this guy, super friendly, obviously. And the more, more we got to know you, not just friendly and open, but just genuine, in the most genuine sense of terms. And there was also something else that I was talking to Gene about.
Do it.
Well, well, I was going to say, I can't, it'll probably come back to me, because now I'm not remembering what that was. It was a good thing.
I'm sure it was mean.
But certainly, and I've said this before too, especially, being more involved with the parish and knowing more about you and hearing more about you and hearing more first impressions about you. It's like all roads, if you meet Alex Birch, all roads lead to St. Michael's Parish. I mean, certainly for Catholics in the area, but it's like you're not going to hear about the parish, or you're not going to not hear about all the opportunities and the good things that are St. Michael's. So
friendship with Alex Birch is directed toward our Lord.
Yeah,
and I think that's probably the biggest compliment I can give you. Is a true friendship with Alex is angled to the Lord every day.
Well, and that's, I guess, maybe one of those things that I was remembering is I remember saying to you that day, because we had just moved there. That was our first few months in Auburn. We had just moved to Auburn. We were just settling in. And I remember saying to you, in some form or another, we're really looking forward to getting involved with church community and that environment. And it's like, look where that's led us. And it's just been so fruitful and so beneficial. So thank you for that.
Sorry I led you here. Right here right now.
This might be an experience that I regret a little bit, but it's been great.
Thank you so much. That's extremely humbling. But I cherish these friendships so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have the age-old marriage and family interaction, I believe.
Yep.
I probably saw you guys at Mass a dozen or more times before we really got to know. Well, I'll slow back. Before my wife really got to know your wife, Jean, and as anybody's guessing, I was probably a little slower to open up, but I never had a bad vibe about you, Michael. It was honestly just nice guy, beautiful family, connected with your wife on some New Jersey roots a little bit, and so always easy to talk to. But again, just my habit of just keeping people at arm's length, and it was just kind of a slow burn of like, he's nice. I never dreaded seeing the Brunson family at anything. And then I want to say it was pretty much because of increased exposure and getting together for breakfasts and things like that. Just the more conversations I had with you, I really, really love I thought you were a D-bag reviews, but I never did. It was
I am sometimes, man.
always good conversation and really, really like salt to the earth people, you and your wife and your kids. And so kudos to you guys as Christians and as parents. You guys are great. And so nothing spicy from me. Just I always knew you were super friendly, super nice. But to get to know you and to actually open up and become friends has been really nice. And I cherish that between our families now too. And welcome to the garage. Don't complain too much. We'll be nice. But yeah, very, very glad that you're here. And just for comedic relief, you're ugly. I don't know. Let me say something mean.
Gotta say something, right? Yeah.
It's all
No, thank you. No, actually, I think we actually have more, and we've talked about this because every time we do have a little bit more time that it's like just us or just me and Gene and you and Tess or something like Sword and Shield. We had an opportunity to connect a little bit more at Sword and Shield. And every time we do talk more, we're like, we gotta do this more. And I feel like you and I haven't really had those opportunities to connect as much, but I think we do have an opportunity to connect more because I think we do share some of those Northern roots in that we're both very like, maybe not standoffish a little bit. And I think that because I mean, I grew up, and again, we'll get into my history. I know, but growing up in New York, upstate New York, I think there is that stigma of Northerners initially being a little more, whatever you want to call it, standoffish, shy, whatever. But then once you
We'll
get
call
to
it cautiously.
cautiously, yes, yeah, I'll take it.
It's true though, and it can be a hindrance in new locations for sure.
Yeah. So I think that was, my kind of first impression of you was, and I don't know if I knew you were from New Jersey right off the bat, but I was like, okay, this guy seems a little more reserved, a little quieter maybe. But he's at Marriage and Family. Cause I think that was the first time we actually met you guys. And that was pre-Dean too, right? When we first met you guys. Yeah. So you guys were just getting into the growing family and everything. And I think that was pretty same impressions. Like, okay, this guy's reserved, but he's obviously keeping good company. He's engaged with the parish. Him and my wife. And I know your history too with that, but
he knows
the wives are seeming to get along, so that must be a good thing. And I probably thought at the time too, I was like, oh great, my wife is talking a ton to his wife. I'm probably going to be forced to hang out with this guy at some point. But no, I knew you were like into sports and everything, so it's like, all right, we'll connect on some level, I'm sure. So here's looking to some more opportunities to get some one-on-one time without this guy around.
Get out of here, Bert. Your kiddos like, get out of here, devil.
They do. Get out of here, devil. Get out of this house. I was like, God, he's not here. And like, get out of here. So they make sure. All right. If we've bored you, we don't care. We're not sorry. Check. All right.
I'm a college professor. I'm boring myself. So.
All right, Michael. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What was childhood like? What was faith life like in the home? And, then upper education. What do you do? How you met your wife?
Yeah.
Tell us. Hit us.
Began on a stormy night in upstate. No.
Began like a day. It was a blustery day in the 100-acre wood.
It was a Wednesday. No, so I'm, as I alluded to already, originally from upstate New York. So real upstate New York, I'm always proud to say, because, a lot of people associate New York with New York City. And upstate is, 30 minutes north of the city, but no. So I grew up north of Syracuse. So born and raised just north of Syracuse, New York. And grew up, Protestant, grew up in the Episcopal Church. And, I guess while we're on that subject, that was, faith and the church and religion and anything, spirituality. It was pretty much always just something that happened when you were at church. We went to church we went to mass every week, pretty much. Very few days that I think we missed, and there was usually a good reason for that. Or, not just we don't feel like going. But we didn't really talk about it much outside of that. So not to jump ahead, but that would certainly influence some future experiences with religion and my spirituality and things like that. But yeah, grew up in New York, spent most of my life there, went to school in Western New York for a time, in Buffalo, and then did some more schooling out west in Arizona. And that was kind of my first foray into exploring this beautiful country, which I've really been fortunate enough to do. So like I said, I did my master's out in northern Arizona. After that, I spent some time up in the Pacific Northwest. So bouncing around, my parents really instilled the wanderlust in me. So loved traveling around. Most of that time was spent in like outdoor pursuits. Both my parents were teachers. They're retired now, but pretty much most summers were spent. I never got to go to summer camp or anything like that because we were always camping and visiting national parks and things like that. So love being outdoors.
What's your favorite national park?
Oh, I hate that question. Everybody always asks me that question.
Top three. No, it's okay. Is that easier?
Yeah, I can certainly throw out a few. I'm very biased to Acadia, not least of all because Acadia up in Maine, because we spent a lot of time going to Acadia. And I just love New England, and we'll get to that too in a little bit based on my history. But love Acadia. Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota is truly a hidden gem. We went there in a big Western trip years ago when I was younger. But I actually had a project when I was a grad student out there too. And I had this like rediscovery of Theodore Roosevelt, and it's an amazing park, and it's not as well known, but it's a great one. And then, another one, maybe Olympic, since I mentioned the Pacific Northwest. Olympic National Park, amazing. Great fishing up there too. So, but yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's over 400 national park units, right?
Yeah. I've been to, thankfully, I've been to 15 to 20 of them. And you named 3 that I've never been to.
Well, they're not going anywhere.
Well, my parents have been, and they speak Theodore Roosevelt in the Dakotas. Was one of their favorites too. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Nope, you're fine. So yeah, I spent a lot of time bouncing around the country, and in many ways, kind of finding my place in what I wanted to do and things like that. And I'm going to speed this up because I can go on and on. But eventually, I found my way back to the Northeast. So I started teaching environmental education. I was a backpacking guide in New Hampshire. So I was in the White Mountains in New Hampshire, northern New Hampshire. And I was like the seasonal bum. So I was backpacking guide in the summer, teaching environmental education to middle schoolers and high schoolers in the spring and the fall. And I was a ski patroller in the winter. So just living the outdoor life, doing what I love to do, playing, got paid to play basically. And then I met my lovely soon-to-be wife, Jean, who is from Maine. She was also working as an outdoor guide at a wilderness therapy.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So we met through mutual friends, in New Hampshire. She was living in New Hampshire as well, the town we both were working at, but the company she worked for was actually right across the border in Maine. But she was working for a wilderness therapy program, met through mutual friends, hit it off. The rest is history, as they say. And yeah, went out to grad school in, fast forward a few years, dragged her out to Kansas, Manhattan, Kansas for my PhD. So it was really hard to leave Maine to go to Kansas, but we actually came to appreciate all that the Midwest had to offer. So did my PhD at K-State in park management and conservation. So more of the outdoor stuff. Taught there for a couple of years, and then a position opened up here in Auburn they were developing a new Parks and Rec management program in the College of Forestry, and it was too good of an offer to pass up. And here we find ourselves in the Southeast, the one place in the country where I had never experienced, and had to check that off my list.
I was going to say, how does it go being like, Gene, there's this Alabama position here. How does that go?
That's what she said. Yeah. She was like, Alabama? Really? My parents said that. It's like, you guys are going to Alabama just when we were like, we're going to Kansas. Nothing against any of these fine states. Every state has their wonderful things, right? In many ways, coming to, and I've said this to a lot of people, coming to Alabama from Kansas was more familiar to us than going from Maine to Kansas. That was a huge departure, going to Kansas, and that was a big transition. But now we're like back in the land of forests and trees, and in many ways it's very similar to Maine. I mean, obviously it's a different ecosystem and everything, and the heat will still get you, but
our mountains are more hills, but sure. Beautiful place around here. I love to actually dive into the rainforest. I guess technically we live in a temperate rainforest here.
Yeah, and I'm not an ecologist, caveat. I might be a college professor, but I'm no ecologist. And we can get into that. I'm a humble social scientist, but I don't know what the technical biome we are in, but certainly not the plains of the Midwest.
He didn't know the word biome though, so he's a step ahead of me. So, I can't believe
I did a lot of bouncing
None
around.
of us knew that Jean was a wildlife therapist or something?
So technically her position, and I actually worked for that company for a little bit too. She dragged me. I'm easily dragged around, apparently. That seems to be a theme. People can drag me around. It's a wilderness therapy program. So it was a residential wilderness therapy program. So clients come, they're on site, and they receive, a variety of, clinical care, on site for a variety of reasons. But then they also spend, and this was her role and my role too for a time being, where we spend 5 days or 4 days out in the field. So we take them out and then they learn, team building skills, teamwork, social skills, and then the hard skills of like camping, knot tying, setting up, not living off the land, but just being outdoors. And this was all year round. So in the winter, I never worked over the winter season, but she was taking them out in, Maine winters.
Oh yeah.
She's a bad.
She is.
My
She
goodness.
is.
My goodness. Good for you, Gene.
Yeah.
Shameless plug. If you're looking to get some family photography done, hit us up. We'll send you a link. But his wife does some beautiful photography. I do want to dive in a little bit to how your faith came about with you and Gene.
Yeah.
I love your story. You might have to stay for breakfast after this so we can talk through the rest of it. But as you guys progress, you meet in that New Hampshire, Maine area, you moved to Kansas and all this other stuff. Was the faith present right off the bat? Was it something you guys had tied in together moving forward? She's cradle Catholic, I believe.
Yes.
So tell us how that all transpired.
Yeah. So yes, she's cradle Catholic. And as I mentioned earlier, I converted when we got married. And actually we got married before I converted. I was in the process of RCIA, which I know it's called, what is it called now? OCIA technically now. Yeah. So we got married before I was, technically went through my process. So hopefully you don't have to edit that out. But
shame.
Hang my head. The short answer is no. Generally speaking, our faith was not very from either, for both of our sides, was not super present right off the bat. That's something in many ways graciously presented itself more as we've come together as a husband and wife. And we've been discovering and rediscovering together, which has been fantastic in more ways than one. But, as I mentioned, I grew up Protestant, grew up in the Episcopal Church, and my faith was pretty much, I don't want to say non-existent throughout a lot of my time on my own before I met Gene. I did go, I would go to church when I was out at school in Arizona and everything. I would occasionally go to church, and I actually came to really enjoy the Episcopal Church where I was going out to school and everything like that. But it was never something I took very seriously in many ways. It just kind of did it. And it never was something that was like that personal, more than just kind of a personal thing. I never thought of it more than just going to church. But once Gene and I got married, and we started having more conversations about what we want our relationship to look like, certainly what we want our family life to look like when kids started to come into the picture and things like that. She was so I actually went through RCIA process twice. First time didn't stick. So yeah, you'd think I'd probably be more knowledgeable than I am, but I'm not. But the first time we actually went through the process, it was out at Kansas, through the church associated with the school. So like the student center church, and usually those are the Newman centers, and it wasn't the Newman Center at K-State, it was St. Isidore's. And you had to have like a guide, and I don't know if that's common practice here or elsewhere. So she would go with me to every RCIA meeting. So that was actually great. Like we got to share that experience together. I was learning like brand new stuff. She was kind of re-exploring and relearning things and learning new things as well. So that was, I think, maybe one of the first like big steps we took together, developing our faith. Like I said, I didn't fully go through with it that first time. And then we had started going, because there were 3 Catholic churches in Manhattan. And we started going to another one in town that was closer to our house. And that's where I ended up doing the RCIA process and committing and going through it there. And that was great. It was more intimate. I really liked the way it was set up and everything. Although, and Charlie can speak to this, he was very upset when he heard that they didn't give me a catechism. So that was, maybe a missing part of my process as well. But again, that's both of our faiths has been something that we've really been developing together. And it's just been, and again, you can ask me more questions about it, but, cause I tend to ramble. It's just been great to kind of be on this journey together, her kind of rediscovering her faith, and me me kind of discovering what my faith means, certainly as a Catholic now too.
Well, what made you decide, okay, yes, I will go to OCIA?
Honestly, I think at the time it was my wife's Catholic. I guess I'm going to become Catholic too.
I appreciate the honesty.
You know,
Yeah.
I think it was really just like a pragmatic thing at the time.
And the differences between Episcopal and Catholic are not as broad as some other denominations. I will say that.
Right.
Tess is a former Episcopalian. So that, what is it? It's more creedal than doctrinal.
Yeah.
So we've had some fascinating conversations,
Right.
and with Gene as well,
right,
about that too. But what was, if you don't mind me asking real quick before we dive into the meat and potatoes here, was there something specific that caused you to pull back the first time you went through OCIA, or was it really just like timing in life?
Yeah, no, honestly, and I'm glad you asked that, because I think there was at least one thing that was more kind of cognizant in my mind about why I didn't do it, and a lot of that was because even though faith in general wasn't one of my, I don't want to say priority, because that kind of diminishes it in some ways, but it wasn't a big part of my life to begin with. Excuse me. I had these thoughts of, okay, I'm about to leave the only faith that essentially I've known, regardless of my involvement, right? I've been, Episcopal. That was how I kind of associated myself as far as my spirituality goes and religious, beliefs. That was a direct connection to my family, of course, right? And, especially because my parents had moved, my brother lives out in Arizona too, and my family's so small to begin with. And we've always been pretty close, my family and my brother and everything like that. And I didn't get to see my family as much. So I had all these thoughts going through my head about like, okay, well, if I convert, I'm going to lose what little connection I have left with my family, if that makes sense. Even though, again, faith as a family wasn't something that was a huge part of our family life. But I do remember having those thoughts, being like, I don't, it doesn't feel right now. I don't want to do it just to do it. And also I had those thoughts of like, well, I'm kind of losing more family connection because my family already lives halfway across the country and I don't see them as much. And now I'm losing this part of it as well. So I do remember that being a part of it.
I can imagine that's a fairly common struggle for converts. Like that, it is severing a pretty significant tie, regardless of commitment to it throughout your life. So I've actually never heard it that exact way, but that's a really good point.
Well, I would say that just, it's silly for people to think that someone can just like, whether you're an atheist or a Protestant of some sort, or, have left the Catholic Church being cradle Catholic and you're going to join or come back, whatever it is. It's a huge shift. I mean, it is. Yeah. And we all have to remember that and appreciate that, certainly. And you can't expect someone just to throw away a worldview and then just change their whole life.
Right.
Like that is a process. Was there anything Catholic that you had to say, whoa, and like work through anything at all?
Honestly, you guys know this thing about me right now too. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Like there's not a whole lot that I'm like really shook by in many ways, and I'm pretty open to things. So currently, I don't think there was anything at the time, and even now as I'm continuing to learn about things, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I think, and you guys can, I'm not certainly trying to speak for you guys, but I think with anything, there are some things that we might not 100% agree with, regardless with anything, right? Whether we're talking about religion, whether we're talking about faith. I think there was, whether it was during the RCIA process, and even now as I continue to figure things out and understand things, I'm just kind of acting like a sponge and taking it all in. And there is so much, obviously. Again, not only being a convert, but again, going through this process with Gene, like I still assume like, oh, you're a cradle Catholic, you must know everything about the Catholic Church,
sure.
right? So it's actually very good and kind of beneficial in many ways that I do hear that, because I kind of expect to be the guy that knows nothing about the Catholic Church when I know that in many ways we're all still learning, right? It's an ongoing process.
Absolutely. And guys, that's what we're here for. This isn't season 2. And if you're just kind of checking out the Catholic Dad Pod, we don't pretend to know everything about anything in our faith, because as Alex has alluded to before, what is it? The mansion with, there's always a door. There's always something else you can dive into. So this is why we're here. Conversations like this to just open a new door.
Yeah.
And today's conversation is going to be just that, because some of those doors you open are very black and white, cut and dry. And some of the doors you open take a little bit of wonder, take a little bit of faith, take a little bit of uncomfortability to dive into the topic. So Alex, you and Michael had kind of created this topic for us in just no podcast related conversation, just because you are an awesome friend and sharing articles and things like that. So take us into how we got to the conversation we're about to approach.
Well, I was looking for any reason to convince Michael to come here. So it was great. Thank you, God. Okay, so we're going to put a link to this YouTube video in the description for this episode. So I would recommend right now to go and watch this video, click the link to this YouTube video and watch the video. So do that right now. Pause, come back. Okay, so now that you've watched the video, I stumbled upon this video via Truthly on Instagram. We don't have Truthly, they're not paying us, but it seems really cool. And it's a video y'all saw about Eucharistic miracles and science behind them. Now, obviously, especially if you're into Carlo Acutis and his website, there are over 100 Eucharistic miracles that have occurred around the world. When you watch the video and see some of that evidence, it's pretty fascinating. It's beyond fascinating. And it certainly, on one hand, makes you just want to be like, yeah, it's real. I told you everything is real. No doubt. So I sent it to Michael and just was like, hey, man, I thought this is pretty cool. I know Michael's PhD in the academic world, science, wonder, all of it. So what do you think of this? And Michael sent me a very thoughtful, interesting response. He essentially said, it's a very interesting video. I don't dislike the video at all. But he finds, the theme of the video is reason and faith. It calls both into question. And the question Michael brought up was, do we need reason to improve our faith? I'm certainly not downplaying miracles. I just think that there can be a lot of emphasis on knowing things, knowing everything these days. We're losing our sense of wonder across the board. I think there is something to be said for not knowing because of factual information and, dare I say it, having faith. He has thoughts and said, cool video, definitely learned a few things. Thanks for sharing, to be continued over a beer or coffee. Boom. So the first thing that I thought when I read that was, one, wow, Michael thought about that way more than I did. The second thing, and that's not a bad thing at all, because my wife especially will tell you, I think about things a lot. And what came to mind immediately was our Lord saying, unless you become like little children, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. That was the first thing that came to mind. Obviously, all three of us here believe in miracles and watch the video and believe in the evidence. Because, it's pretty hard to dispute, clearly. But then you read the gospel too, and you hear what comes out of our Lord's mouth. And especially, Michael, I love tying it into what you did, the sense of wonder and the outdoors. So before we really dive into the video and that, I want to ask you this. When you were working in outdoors and in the national parks and wilderness therapy leading and all that, do the outdoors and being in nature and God's creation, did that build up your sense of wonder? And did you feel God out in that at all, calling to you in any way? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think short answer is absolutely. Whether or not I, really made those connections at the time. Because to this day, being outdoors whether it's hiking, biking, just being outside, is that's where I feel like myself. I mean, that's one of the reasons why my wife and I bonded so much, is because we both liked the outdoors. We liked those aspects of nature and things like that, whatever you want to call it. And even during my own kind of personal faith journey, if you want to call it that, there was a time when, whether I was trying to be trendy or not, or for whatever reason, I kind of coined myself as I don't know if you've heard this term before, pantheist. Have you guys come across that term before? It's this idea of, finding a higher power, finding God in not so much as one entity or being or all powerful being, right? But more so that God is present in all living things and in nature, essentially, right? So, you think of like crunchy granola people being pantheists, and I find God when I go out and dance in the forest and go hike and things like that. So I think at one point I was like, yeah, I'm out here, like I'm finding my higher power. I'm God is around me in the trees and plants. And again, whether I was just trying to be trendy at the time because of the people that I surrounded myself with or things like that, who knows? And I also remember specifically thinking about like this separation of my spirituality and then religion. And like, I can be spiritual, but I don't necessarily have to be religious, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Remind us if we ever go camping with Michael and he starts dancing around the fire.
If you wake up in the middle of the night and hear flutes playing, yeah, no,
Goodness.
I didn't do any of that. Yeah, no.
No, I love that Alex asked that question, because not having the pantheist view of it, but it's hard to travel any of our national parks and not have wonder, whether you're Catholic or agnostic or whatever. It's the beauty is just overwhelming. I remember Father Peyton doing a Lenten retreat at our church. First season 2 reference, Father Peyton. Here we go.
Didn't take long.
But he had us close our eyes and envision a place, any place that you felt Jesus's presence. And at the time, we had just finished a 2-week trip at Glacier. We were on Road to the Sun going up, and there's these giant boulders on the side of the road that you can sit and overlook the valley and the peaks and everything, and it's just serene. And Tez and I both in the car on the way home, I think I probably told this story before, but both of us, without communicating it, had envisioned that exact spot, sitting on one of the boulders, having lunch with Jesus sitting next to us. And it happened to be the last vacation we took with my maternal grandmother. And so just a really special experience, but any national park, I think.
Well, yeah. And I think at the very least, maybe one of the ways that's shifted for me is, just look at what God has provided for us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at what he has done to provide us with these, again, at the highest level, just these amazing landscapes, the wildlife, the plants. I mean, just these opportunities for both personal reflection and enjoyment, time spent with family, but then a pathway to, again, him, right? And understanding what he's provided for us.
Well, I think it is correct to say God is present in nature, because God is omnipresent. I mean, 100%. Yes. So there's nothing wrong to say that at all. It's just about what you choose to worship, essentially.
Exactly.
Not nature itself, but you worship our Lord. So building off that, in my opinion, I think what the outdoors and nature provides us the best with, one is freedom from distractions. And then the wonder of looking at our national parks, the ocean, things like that. They slow you down, allow you to be fully present, I think, better than just sitting in your living room does. And we thirst for God nonstop every day. It's what we're all longing for. He is whom we are all longing for. And he is our end game, our ultimate goal, to be with him forever. So I think nature provides us an opportunity and the best environment that we can get to really hear him, feel him, be closest to him, just freedom from these distractions, essentially.
I listened to a really cool talk about faith and science and the intermingling of it. Bishop Robert Barron gave a talk about it, and he was saying how science doesn't disprove religion or faith, that it orders us towards God. And the way he described it is, even from a toddler stage, your earliest stage of development, your mind is always, well, what's that?
Right.
Why? You guys
Right.
have kids. Like, why?
Right.
What is
Figure
that?
things
Tell
out.
me about it, Dad. And so there's always that thirst for knowledge, but that constant why doesn't stop. You're in higher education. You're constantly striving for more understanding, but that understanding always points you toward the ultimate source of knowledge and goodness and love, which is our Lord and Savior. So it's innate in every human being, that desire. Like you said, you're constantly striving for God. Well, that's what a pursuit of knowledge is to me, is you're ordered to get to that point, even in highest levels of education, where you're like, yeah, there's a creator. There's a divine being who, being is probably not the right term because we're beings, but yeah, it's a constant striving for knowledge, which leads you to Christ, leads you to God. So,
Right. Well, and I think what really struck me with that video, and I guess now is the time to tell you guys that I actually didn't write that text. That would no.
Yes. Collusion.
I asked AI to write that text. No, I think what really struck me with that is, you know, and yeah, maybe this is the scientist in me. Although again, I'm just a lowly social scientist. I do research on human behavior in national parks, so nothing too serious and mind blowing. But this idea of, do we have to have this everything's on the table, hard facts, right in our eye, point blank? Jesus is real. God is real. All these things are real, right? Because again, from a scientific perspective, when we do talk about, the scientific method and understanding knowledge in general, right? There's the argument that nothing can be proved, right? Anything that we know is only because of continuing evidence that in the meantime proves
truly
it,
like 100%
right?
know anything, right?
Like even gravity, right? We know gravity exists because all evidence points to the fact that nothing has disproven it, right? I mean, that's an extreme example. So again, taking account our faith, I think what I've maybe found interesting as I continue to develop my own faith, it's like, how much do I need to know or have more proof of whether it, again, like, was Jesus actually real, right? So I think that's what kind of led me to that question, or that statement.
Well, I'm not sure if Monsignor Farmer or if it was Father Peyton who said this, but I remember hearing this probably a couple of years ago at a homily. But basically, if you spend your entire life trying to just prove every single thing, like, when are you ever just going to have faith,
Right.
essentially?
Right.
Because you can beat your head into full pulp on the table submission trying to do that. And it's interesting too, back in the, because obviously, science is fairly advanced now, in a lot of respects. And you look back hundreds of years ago when it was much, much less advanced. And I mean, truthfully, like, faith was the center of society, I mean, towns were built
Right.
around churches and Christendom, we talk about that. We look at, the rise of atheism in the last century and what that caused. And science is a good thing, 110%. But it definitely calls us to question everything in a way, and sometimes maybe that is a little too much and does, kill people's faith in some way.
Yeah. And the other thing I think came to mind with those videos and any of those, whether they're miracles or anything else that attempts to prove or in some way proves that something happened, right? Kind of what's going on, I feel like, and this is just my opinion, with society these days, like, everyone's looking for that quick fix, right? Everybody is looking for, whether it's immediate gratification in some form or another. They want to know an answer to something immediately. I mean, I still remember, I know I'm not that much older than you guys. I'm a little bit older, but I still remember sitting at the dinner table at home growing up, and we'd be sitting around the dinner table talking, and something would come up and be like, oh, I don't know, let me check the encyclopedia. And we had a row, my parents received like that, the quintessential door-to-door salesman collection of encyclopedias, A through Z, and depending on the letters, there'd be like 2 volumes because there's more.
That's awesome.
And we would go grab the encyclopedia and like have to look things up. And now again, obviously how easy it is to just ask Siri, go on Google, things like that. So that need and ability to just get immediate gratification for so many things. And that extends into the home life, right? With like the loss of home cooked meals, everybody gathering around the kitchen to cook meals. And now we're just door dashing everything. So that quick fix, right? So again, when it comes to faith and spirituality and religion, I think, what came to mind with that is like, how would that change people's faith and then just relationship with God if all of a sudden something was dropped in our lap that was like, yep, this is what happened. These are all the answers. And obviously we will have that moment when this is real, right? This is, we'll have that moment, of course. But until then, how might that change that personal development process and that personal connection that we're working on faith-wise, right? If that makes sense. Because I think the other thing that, and this is just from my personal experience, some kind of focus on, or just the very fact that I am, have been coming into the Catholic faith more and being very invested in discovering my own faith and my relationship with Jesus and my relationship with God. I just think of how beneficial that's been for me personally. And I know that's like the selfish approach of what can the church do for me kind of thing. But it's absolutely improved who I am as a person. It's absolutely improved my relationship with my wife. It's absolutely improved who I am as a father. And again, that aspect of, well, how would that change if I didn't have to read scripture anymore? I didn't have to read, I felt like I didn't have to read, the Magnificat every morning because, I already know, like I'm good, or this is, these things are real. How would that change my development as a father, as a husband, as an individual? And again, I know that's taking kind of a selfish approach, but that's kind of what was going through my head too with those videos.
Another thought train that popped through my head was, if you go on the internet, what do you see? People arguing. Like that's what the internet is essentially. I definitely think that part of it too is we want to be able to prove everything so that we can prove someone else wrong.
Right.
Like the internet is the place to argue, the place to call people out, the place to have debates, the place for apologetics. And like Ryan and I always say, we're not the apologists here. It's not what we do, folks. We're here to tell stories and have conversations about things. But and I won't lie, I do understand the want to understand. I understand
Sure.
we're human beings. I think we've been longing to understand things for as long as we've existed and been able to do that essentially. But I agree very much with what you said, Michael, about, I'll say this. I'm a sinner. I'm not a perfect person. Sometimes I'm very disappointed in myself. And what I think about in those moments is, if I didn't have my faith, if I wasn't at least trying, then I'd be far worse off because I know how I was. And I wouldn't be able to reflect, get through the bad moments, understand that if something really bad happens, I'm going to get through it. Have that faith even in myself of that because I have Jesus in me by my side, friends with him at the head, like all that's so important. So I have this kind of, my faith provides me with this clarity in life. And also the ability to understand, this too shall pass in this small moment of great frustration or doubt. And I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if y'all ever have this. It might just be me, but every now and then this tiny little, for like 5 seconds, doubt creeps in and is like, is it really all real? And you just feel this dread, this tightness in your chest just for a second, But No, I have my faith. And I won't lie to you right now. Like, I can't sit here and tell you how to line by line, argument by argument, prove the Immaculate Conception. I can't do that.
Right.
I sure can't. I can't. There are other things that I think I can spar with pretty well, but at some point you do have to like jump off the diving board. You know, yeah, you have to, because you will beat your head into oblivion if you try to prove everything. And I think that's the beautiful thing about faith. That's what we call it, faith. You know, and I don't think there's anything wrong with trying to understand.
No.
But you okay, this is it in a line. If I could give it a line, you can't understand everything. You can go your whole life and never understand it all. So you have to make a decision at some point, basically. Right. You have to decide, yes, I believe it or not. You know, you need something, you need enough in your own mind, but you're never going to get it all. So what's your choice? That's what I think.
Never gonna get it. No, I 100% agree with, 100% agree with the whole, the occasional, like, is it all real? And then you give it the old Birch children, get out of here, Satan. But then that faith comes in and you're like, no, that's just silly. I love what you just said about that faith carries you through anything. That faith, you just know there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can go, this too shall pass. Everything is going to be fine through Christ. And that's what I love about having some of our parishioners, some of our friends, some of the people we've met on this show. And, you know, you listen to any number of guests that we've had and you just think like, man, I might be in a dark time, but God is the light at the end of the tunnel. The whole urge to disprove things, I think, is so powerful, especially with Google and now with AI and, you know, quick sources everywhere and just every bit of knowledge is thrown in your face. You not only have an urge to, but now you have unlimited resources to try to disprove things. And of course, online and in a faith context, that's pretty much all some people want to do online is attack, well, Catholics for the most part. But that's what I loved about the video and subsequent videos that I watched, which I'll link, the Chris Aller video and the Bishop Barron video as well. But they talk about the Eucharistic miracle data and scientific proof behind it. Now, we're not going to dive into every single one. That would take us, I don't know how many episodes, but the idea that I don't want to, but I'm going to say that, like, spiritual warfare, like attack on, if it has something to do with the faith, I want to prove it's wrong, is why certain miracles are sent to labs anonymously. You send the tissue from Buenos Aires in Argentina, they send it to New York City to 3 different labs without telling them where it came from.
Yeah.
Because you know that the human element of it is going to hear, oh, this is from a consecrated host from the Catholic Church.
Give me a break.
You can't do, like, somebody's going to warp that or try to say, no, it's BS. And when you send it anonymously, what comes back? Oh, it's heart tissue. It's originating from the interior. It's not coagulated. It's AB positive. It's myocardium, left ventricle. It's everything so consistent.
Yeah.
Whereas when they had their little symposium, and you can get this in Bishop Barron's talk after the Buenos Aires one, and they did all the research, correction, that was probably Chris Aller who talks about this one, Father Chris. But he talks about how the doctors who got up there were basically saying, like, this tissue came from a murder. Like, it's fresh tissue, all this other stuff. And then the doctor who originally analyzed it from Buenos Aires got up and was like, give me bread, a priest, and these prayers of consecration, and I'll show you what you have in front of you. And if they didn't have such significant doctors working on anonymous tissue, they wouldn't have any argument. But what ends up happening? Some of those doctors end up converting to Catholicism because of the evidence in front of them. So it's not always like, it's not always the jump off the diving board, I don't believe. A lot of it is.
Yeah.
But damn, man, like, our Lord is so gracious to us that every now and then, through Eucharistic miracles and other things, he doesn't have to give us that. He gives us that just as a little, like a breadcrumb, right? Like, not to downplay it, but that's your breadcrumb of like, stay on this path. I'm showing you that this is real. You just have to have faith.
Yeah. Well, to build on that too, when you hear about a lot of these Eucharistic miracles, a ton of them are the priest had doubt in the moment of consecration, and God gives that miracle to him. And I mean, Ryan, you're absolutely right. And I hope no one thinks I'm downplaying the significance of miracles, because I do love hearing about miracles, and I believe in everyday miracles very much. And like our priests say, we see a miracle every single mass. A miracle happens every single mass. But also, we have to have faith in that miracle, because nothing looks different, But our Lord's given us miracles forever. I mean, the miracles of the apparitions of Our Lady, miracle of the sun, miracle of the roses and the tilma at Guadalupe. You have these Eucharistic miracles. So our Lord does give us these gifts. And those miracles, every one of them that I just mentioned, has converted millions of souls. I mean, you look at what happened in Mexico when that happened. And yes, there's scientists who have converted, and that's beautiful. I mean, there's no questions asked. They had to also, they had to make that choice, jump off the diving board too, to do that. But it's sure is hard to argue with. I mean, I can't deny it when you see that stuff.
Yeah. And I'm probably coming across to listeners as like this academic stodgy curmudgeon who's like, miracles are a hoax and, everything by the books.
You never said that.
I didn't. I don't think I did. And I'm certainly not trying to imply that. I think, and again, this is more just, my, it's been my personal journey. I think it provides those, whether it's the miracles, those Eucharistic miracles, or the daily miracles, like you mentioned, that many of us experience in everyday life, and in many ways choose to recognize as miracles, right? Because I think a lot of us probably witness miracles that we take for granted, and they're those little miracles that happen every day. That just provides that pathway, that deeper understanding, and that pathway to developing our faith in many ways.
That is beautifully said. I love to hear you say, choose to recognize the little things in your life as miracles. One of them is running around the kitchen, screaming and yelling right now.
Yes.
First time he's ever had dad in the garage while he's awake. So he's itching to get out here. But yes, choosing to notice and be grateful that these are miracles happening right. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic experience or a traumatic experience. It could be the birth of your child. It could be your marriage, your return to faith. It could be a beautiful sunset, like any of these things with a sense of wonder and faith coinciding inside of you is miraculous. But not everybody has that point of view. But it is a enlightening way to think when you finally do identify everyday experiences as miraculous, because they are, and they're gifts every single day.
Yeah. Some of my patients, I'll be frank, but I say this with a lot of love. Some of my patients, they're very simple people. They aren't academics.
So are some of my students.
Boom. Auburn University, War Eagle.
No, they're great. They're great.
But they're very joyful, and without any kind of prompting, they're bringing up Jesus Christ. They're bringing up their faith, and it is the lifeline and the worldview that they live by, and they've never proven, quote unquote, one thing about it. And it's truly, some of them, they are the most beautiful people I come across. How does the church evangelize the best? I think I've said this before, but it's the beauty of its liturgy, the saints, and the church militant here on earth just living out our faith. Like, when you come across someone who just lives their faith, has faith, and joyfully, truly lives it, it's spellbinding. It's wonder. It is, I think about the same verse when I see these people, unless you become like little children, and that's what they're like, this joyful, childlike wonder, and I look at my kids, running around, you know, sliding and riding their balance bikes and shouting, "Get out of here, devil," and being like, "Oh, that's Mary," every time they see her, and Joseph loves Saint Michael, and we're just, you know, the wonder of just talking about our faith every day, and then them grabbing it and um partaking in that in their way. But certainly it's funny, especially my daughter. She asks why, who, a lot, and she doesn't ask why really about the faith stuff. She takes it and just and runs with it and chooses to believe it. And that childlike wonder is so alive. There are um I can't remember. It was a female saint, a well-known one. It might have been Catholic Siena or Teresa of Avila, but I'm really not positive. No one quote me on this, but had a vision of hell and said, "There are no children here. None."
Yeah.
And that's how it should be,
Yeah.
personally. Um, but that just makes too much sense to me, to be honest. Way too much sense. And think, if only we could all have that,
Right.
that sense of wonder. It's beautiful. And I think it's great to have a sense of wonder about miracles too, to let your imagination go and run and all of it, good things. Um, I will say, and this is just me, completely just me, you know, I have borne much more fruit personally, just trying to increase my prayer life, just talking to you guys about things, going on our retreat experiences, more diving off the diving board stuff than like that is going to bring me more peace and joy than if I just like sit and scroll YouTube and try to like learn how to apologize about every aspect of our faith.
Right.
And I do not want to downplay the work apologists do. It is important work, and we should be able, because a lot of times like that debate does also convert souls. I mean, tons and tons of times.
Right.
But the most fruitful experiences I have are based on faith and wonder. Absolutely.
Right.
I think from a Catholic perspective, it was touched on just a minute ago of transubstantiation. Nothing changes visually. And if you go through the motions, you go up and have your cracker, for the awful way to look at it.
Sure.
Right.
But of course, we don't believe that. In your conversion, was that something that you were okay taking that step off the deep end or into the deep end, off the diving board? Was that a sense of wonder that you had to kind of come to grips with and just accept? Like, where did you land coming from Episcopal Church over to Catholicism, knowing that's the source of summit?
Yeah, I think in many ways that's a great question. I think in many ways that's maybe what I am still, I don't want to say grappling with, but trying to understand better, I think. And I kind of talked, Alex, I think I talked a little bit about this during some of those St. Michael's Lent meetings where maybe one of the biggest, again, grappling or challenges isn't maybe the right word. That's maybe too intense, but one of the things that I'm trying to maybe understand better about this process for me is, why am I doing the things that I'm doing? Even those like everyday, why am I genuflecting? What, when I go into the pew, why am I, beating my chest? Like the balance between feeling like I'm just doing it just to do it versus what it actually means, for me and for the bigger picture. So yeah, honestly, Ryan, I think that's maybe something that I'm still trying to understand in many ways. If that makes sense.
I think, especially in the Mass, Mass is all biblical and it all does have meaning. There's a reason it's all in. I think that's a great thing to try to understand, to be honest, because we don't just want to, pray vainly, just go through the motions, But the beautiful thing about the liturgy is too, though, even if you are in a state like that, I think that's part of why the Mass is what it is. You are still participating, especially with little kids, like we're all shuffling and trying to keep things good and, civil.
Temperate.
And, but you can still participate even when you're picking someone up or saying, don't stand, on the top of the pew or something like that. It's you know, Yeah, I don't think I have much more to add to that, but yeah, it's a way to participate, and it doesn't depend on how you feel, which is a good thing.
No, the
too, as
presence.
well.
I think the
Yeah.
presence. You still
Mhm.
have the presence there, and that this is a totally random sidetrack, but that just reminded me of, speaking of. I don't know, you've talked about wrangling kids in many episodes, but do you happen to remember Christmas vigil? Not vigil, but Christmas mass. When I forget what point it was, but there was not a lot of sound happening, and Sophie started saying peekaboo. Anybody
I do remember
pick
that.
up on
Yes,
that?
heard
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That was my proud father moment in church.
Well, 2 years ago, Charlotte just decided to start going just real loud.
When you're
And
the most annoying sound in the world.
that's exactly what it was. 110%. And I had to take her out twice. It was awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that was I was sweating a little bit. Not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I was sweating a little bit. I've gotten a little better at kind of being like, all right, just brush it off. People understand, because you think everybody hates you in the
Right,
moment.
I know.
And every single time I think it for sure, people are like, your family's beautiful. You're doing a good
Right.
job. You're where you need to be. I've said that before, but yeah, walking out normal mass versus walking out Christmas mass, holding your kid. I was like
It's
holding her
differently,
sideways too.
yeah.
I was like, ooh, it hit a little different.
Yeah. Sorry, I digress there.
Well, if Christmas especially, because you got to get there 45 minutes early. So it's like,
Yeah.
all right, we've already cleared through the time I thought he would behave.
Yep.
And now we're into the red. We're on borrowed time here. I know I'm going to be getting up. We go to mass, and quite often I think to myself, man, it would be really beautiful to sit with all the families that we love to be with so much and that build our domestic church around us.
Yeah.
And then that quick thought of like, if we were all together though, how much of those kids going to really focus?
Yeah.
So Christmas, a lot of us sat in the same pew.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm going to commend our families. It was pretty
Actually
well
went pretty
behaved.
well, yeah.
The normal get up and take them to the bathroom, or
Sure.
hey, stop screaming, have a cracker. Like Dean, when he gets going, it's like, all right, get out the puffs. And he'll just he ate a whole bag of puffs, I think probably before communion even started. But yeah, it's the sense of wonder, to go, to our little prevailing theme here, is so easily seen in the kids. Like when you talk about Charlotte, your daughter, never doubting anything that goes on in church, that starts with strong parental guidance in the faith. And I commend both of you guys, because I can see it in your kids as well. You might think your kids are loud at church. I don't ever recall hearing the Brunson children doing anything. But yeah, it's so great to see our families surrounding their children with that faith and wonder, pointing them in the direction of, especially as a kid, like, of course they don't have the answers,
right?
But they just jump into it, no reservations.
Right.
And I think, like you keep saying, that scripture, to become like little children. It's like, it's so against the norm in our society,
right?
But I love it. Like I love
the rebels,
like, taking the training wheels off and just letting go of the handlebars and just go.
Yeah.
Like, here we are. I buy into it. I love it. It sustains me. We're here for it, brother. It's the life, the way, the truth, and the life.
Yep.
So you're telling me you've always loved just diving into things, never had any hesitation about retreats or marriage, family, or some prayer stuff or confess. You, Ryan Milana. That's what you're telling me right now, right?
I plead the fifth.
I understand.
No, that childhood sense of wonder. I mean, you hear it a lot. That's a powerful thing, and that curiosity, right? And the recognition goes both ways, because I see what you guys do I see what you're doing with your boy and your kids, Alex. And I mean, one of the best things we can all do is model, right? I mean, they're little sponges, and it happened accidentally, but now I make it a point that when Mary's always the first one out of the room, and that was before Sophie couldn't get out of her crib, but now, like I mentioned, we just transitioned her, so now she might be the one running out of here first. I know, jeez. But Mary's always the first one out, and I always make it a point now that I'm in the chair, and she expects me, because sometimes when I'm not, if I'm getting a cup of coffee, she's like, "Why aren't you in the chair?" So she expects me to be in the chair in the living room reading, and usually, and again, it happened by accident at first, but now I make it a point that I want to be either reading the Magnificat or one of the 5 or more books that Charlie gave me. And, Fulfillment of Desire is the one that I'm getting through right now, and that's a heavy one. But again, she now expects me to be out there reading, and she might not fully understand what I'm reading, but she does know it's something to do with church. And that's become like this. That was like a aha moment. That I want to make sure that's going to continue.
Yeah, the childhood sight and wonder almost encourages us to do the same. And I know my son's not quite old enough to come out, see me reading, ask questions about what I'm reading,
Right.
why I'm reading it, things like that. But in the same token, it's like it inspires me now to go into deeper, for lack of a better term, deeper understanding or just more knowledge of these amazing, miraculous things that our Lord provides us. So, in preparation for this, and I'm going through different talks, different Eucharistic miracles, and I stumble upon the Eucharistic miracle in Avignon, France. And I'm like, okay, for anybody who doesn't know, brief backstory. Basically, I gotta say it was like 1400s, or don't quote me on that, but the church floods up to 4 feet or so of water in the church, and they send in some monks to rescue the consecrated hosts in the tabernacle. And when they go in, the waters are parted like the Red Sea, and they had a boat to take the monks in, and they were able to just walk down, take the hosts out that were untouched, no water, nothing on them, and take the hosts out. And it's like, can I understand that? No. Can I explain that to my child? No. He's going to have enough wonder. He's just going to be like, that's so cool, Daddy. That's amazing. But it's like, I can't wait to tell stories that I can't explain.
Right.
To tell these miracles, to read through the Bible. How did Jesus make that blind man see? I don't know, dude. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
But it's like we can feed off of that innocence and
Yep.
unquestioning nature that a child has.
Yep. Absolutely. Love it.
You just got me going there a little bit, man. I have to say that was just got me excited. Yep, that was awesome. Well, yeah, Charlotte, every night, Dad, tell me a quick Jesus story. I'm like getting in there, and I think of a quick one, and we do it. I don't rush through it, but just make sure it's short because we're trying to exit the room. Bedtime takes a really long time with us. Our kids,
bedtime.
they know how to flesh it out.
Bedtime.
But she loves a good miracle. Feeding the 5,000. It was more than 5,000. Spoiler alert. And Peter walking on water, still her favorite. Healing a leper.
Wait, who's Peter? No, that was for Charlie.
Unimportant.
That was for Charlie.
Just sit him next to Michael. Oh yeah, but yeah, no, just getting to talk about that stuff. That's well said, Ryan. That's awesome. Yeah, Michael. Nowadays, where are we now? How far have we come? Like, where is your faith now? Tell me about that.
It's definitely come a long way. I mean, the amount, and that a lot of that is just because I think I mentioned I've just tried to be like a sponge, and I'm just diving full force into things and maybe that's not the best way to do it because it can be overwhelming too. But again, going back to how I've, how being more involved with the church and my faith has helped me grow as an individual, as a father, as a husband, and the path, and I'll say it again too. The fact that both Jean, my wife, and I have kind of been on the journey together, and her rediscovering her faith, and me, doing what I'm doing too. It does make me feel like this is what I've been missing. Right. So in many ways, I know you've talked to other people about, when was that kind of aha moment. I think I have had that moment, even though it's maybe been more subtle. It's like, I still love my family, obviously. And, despite the fact that they're still practicing Episcopalians, doesn't change that or anything like that. But it's like, I feel like I'm in the right spot now. And the Catholic Church has just been waiting for me in many ways.
Question for you. Do you sort of feel like in your unique journey that you're like kind of still living through one prolonged aha moment as you're still learning about every different nook and cranny that you can dive into?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because you do hear about, like the, epiphany, in the generic sense, right? Those moments of, aha and things. And I actually spent a lot of time in other contexts waiting for moments of like realization and things like that. Whether it was like butterflies in my tummy with my wife or things like what happened, because any couple goes through challenges and struggles, and it's like, where did the butterflies go, and where's that moment going to come again? And the fact is, you have to work, right? It's work. You have to work through struggles and things like that. And I think, you work through your faith as well at times, because there are moments that challenge your faith, right? I think a lot of people can attest to that. And, my family, we've been very fortunate that we haven't had to struggle through too many, huge tragedies or anything like that, right? We're very blessed in many ways. But anything takes continued work and perseverance, and you work through struggles. So yeah, it has been kind of this slow burn of just like, yeah, that makes sense. That feels good. That makes sense. Right?
Yep. Even as a cradle Catholic, I just have, I think that's another one of those gifts, little miraculous, recognized as miraculous gifts that our Lord gives, is even someone who was baptized as an infant and brought up in Catholic school and all this other stuff. I still have aha moments,
right?
Periodically throughout my year, and different things or realizations or epiphanies,
right?
That kind of hit me and just spark another fire. And I think that's such a gift in our faith, is that you're going to get those, and it's going to keep you engaged, and it's going to keep you in the door.
Yeah. The saints are a perfect example of that too, because as Episcopals, we believe in saints and everything. I think, again, I'm no expert on the Episcopal Church either, but to my knowledge, we don't ask for, or I shouldn't say we anymore. That sounds weird. Or growing up, we didn't ask for intercession to saints the way we as Catholics do. But we still, talked about saints and everything, and it was still part of the faith. But the saints have been a perfect example of like, oh my gosh, this is great. Right. And again, it sounds kind of trivial and selfish from that perspective, but reading about the saints, learning about the role that they play in the church, and how we can call on them has been a great part of my journey as well.
Who was your confirmation saint and why?
My confirmation saint was John Henry Newman.
Nice. It makes so much sense.
Does it make sense? Right?
So much.
Right? I mean, Anglican priest turned Catholic, turned Pope, not Pope, Cardinal under, I'm certainly not going to know which Pope, but he became a Cardinal at some point. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So John Henry Newman.
Who are your go-to intercessors?
Right now, St. Michael, and actually, I don't. It's not as heavy as Alex's.
None of them are. This is not a medical issue.
You can see the. But I rediscovered. I had it for years. St. Michael. That on the flip side is Mont Saint Michel in France, and I was asking my mom about this. I was trying to figure out, because I've had this for years, and I'm pretty sure I got it when we made our trip we went to France when I was back in middle school. And we went to Mont Saint Michel. And I remember even at that age, I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. I remember being there and was like, oh, like this is something. Like this was a powerful moment as a, angsty 7th, 8th grader or whatever. So St. Michael, and then more recently, this is kind of a funny story, St. Anthony right now, because this will sound silly. Gene was back visiting family in Maine, so I had an opportunity to go for a really long bike ride, which I don't get to do as much anymore. And I have my jersey, and because I'm one of those bike nerds where I wear I'm wearing Lycra.
I love it.
I love it. I'm full. I'm kitted out.
You look good, bro.
Hey, so that's why I go to the gym, so I can fill out the Lycra. So there's jersey pockets where you can stash your stuff, and I had my little Ziploc full of like some snacks. I just take out like my ID and maybe a credit card or something in case I need to buy something because I bonk or whatever. I didn't bring enough snacks, and I realized 20 miles into my ride that it had fallen out.
Uh-oh.
So I spent, I don't know how long, backtracking on the road, trying to find it. Also, there was a dog that was loose, so I had to ride by this dog that would chase me like 3 times trying to find it. So that was fun. So I was getting some sprints in, but I was like, I know Catholics pray to St. Anthony for lost things. I was like, in my head, I was just like, hey, if I can find this, St. Anthony, I'm all yours. And I found it. So now one of the days after church, I picked up St. Anthony. And so it sounds kind of trivial, like, oh, St. Anthony, helped you find lost things. But I also did a little more research, and he's obviously, known for more than that. And it mentioned that, patron saint of like lost souls and people in times of being lost. So that actually resonated with me on a deeper level, because I've gone through my own moments of like, what am I doing? What's my purpose kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it started out as kind of this like superficial, oh, St. Anthony, help me find this lost thing. But it actually has kind of come to develop a little more.
Yeah, he's a power player for sure.
Yeah.
Tessa's confirmation saint was coming from Episcopal Church into the Catholic Church. Also, Anthony, although she didn't know that they would announce her by her confirmation name. So she was like panicked. They didn't tell her to pick a saint.
Oh, geez.
And she was like, St. Anthony. I know St. Anthony.
There was a reason for it.
And so they said, Anthony Von Gall. And she was like, oh my gosh. So we joke on her for that too. Alex, who are your go-to intercessors, or if you have any other comments?
Oh, quick comment about St. Anthony. He's one of those saints for some reason that he's just hanging around. I don't know what it is, but so the Acts retreat from now last year that Ryan and I helped put on, he was the patron of that retreat. And then we get back, and my mother-in-law gave me a late birthday present. My birthday is in February, and the retreat was in late February, mid to late February. She gave it to me probably 2-3 weeks after the retreat, and it was this old wooden icon of St. Anthony, holding infant Jesus. And she knew nothing about the details of the retreat. I'm like, hey, bro, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So he's up on our prayer corner now, right there, and then my mother-in-law taught Charlotte this little nursery rhyme kind of thing. St. Anthony, please come around. Charlotte's blank needs to be found, or whatever it is. And it's worked a couple times. I have to say, no, I know that I don't want it to sound like magic or some spell. I really don't, but it's their little sweet way of the prayer, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yes. And, you find something eventually. But yeah, he's just this one who hangs around. It's so interesting. I like him.
Yeah.
Y'all can't see it, but this awesome hat my wife got me for Christmas, St. Joseph, he's there. So in my fatherhood and husbandry, my family has a big devotion to the Holy Family of Nazareth. So Jesus, Mary, and Joseph by far the unit. I will say when it's the late, night wake up, which thankfully I don't have to do very much, more so my wife, it's always Mary. And then when it's patience and grace during the day, being a father, it's St. Joseph.
Yeah.
I also have really, over the past couple of years, tried to develop a deep relationship with my guardian angel. So I really try to speak to my angel.
Yeah.
And then of course you all know St. Ignatius, my dear friend, St. Ignatius Loyola, the prayer for generosity every single day, talk to my boy. And then I have certain, at work, St. Agatha, patroness of nurses, and St. Michael too, St. Benedict, especially for protection, or if I feel like I'm being influenced by something not good, push these things away. Certainly the Holy Family, my guardian angel, and St. Ignatius are the main ones. What about you, my friend?
Yeah, St. Michael's an easy one, I think, for any man, any Catholic, any Christian, but St. Michael has a good place in my heart. St. Joseph is my patron saint, my middle name. He's my go-to for everything. Obviously, our mother, our lady is always there for me. I do ask for some intercession from St. John the Baptist. He's I hope I'm not wrong on this, but he's one of the patron saints of humility. So between him and St. Joseph as a father, to just be a humble, silent servant, and also, there's St. John the Baptist of just announcing the good news of Christ, and, preparing the way is not my job. That was his job, but definitely a powerful intercessor. Saint Giorgio, newly beatified St. Giorgio. I do ask for some intercession. Just find it powerful. Number one, is a more recent and relatable saint. Lived a lived a lay life, very holy life, but just kind of the everyman saint. And yeah, those are kind of the ones that I hit. I do try to ask for intercession from St. Peter a little bit more often. He's just, I think I've mentioned before, one of those saints that you don't talk about as much or ask for intercession as much, I think, in a general sense. But I mean, how could you not ask the Rock to help you through some things? So yeah, and we're watching The Chosen, so I get a little reminder of Peter and his prowess, But
Absolutely.
awesome. I think it's time for challenges.
Yep.
You know the drill, Michael.
I know the drill.
And you get the honor of choosing when you want to go. I'm not going to make you go first, but you should probably go first.
I'll go, and I came prepared. So
Perfect.
And I don't think I was worry about being stolen anyway, because I'm going to be a little outside the box. But it's applicable. Don't worry. So my challenge for folks is pick a loved one, friend, family member, or maybe not a loved one if you really want to add to the challenge. Handwritten letter to somebody. Let them know you're thinking of them. Send some thoughts. Hand write a letter and send it to somebody. And if folks don't think that's applicable, think again. Letters are obviously a big part of the church.
That's good. Oh, man, that was a great end right there. Wow. Well, that's good stuff, Haas. That's good stuff. Okay. I really challenge y'all to do that for real, because there are 0 people in this world who would dislike getting a handwritten letter. 0 people. And I would bet my life on that one. I challenge everyone to read one of the hours of the Liturgy of the Hours, every day for the next week. Just one. I promise you'll be a little more peaceful and calm. And I think you'll just step back and think, wow, that was just nice. I've really enjoyed it. So just 1 hour. Doesn't have to be the same one, of course, whenever it fits, whenever you get that opportunity. Doesn't have to be on the hour, on the dot, perfect. And for the record, it doesn't take an hour to pray it. It takes 5 to 10 minutes, depending on which hour you're doing. But just read 1 hour each day.
I was about to scream that when I got the microphone of, guys, don't panic. It's not an hour long. And it is a beautiful reflection. I love the night prayer that Tess and I have been reciting together. We'll take turns, or we'll read parts of it together as well. But it has been a good addition to our prayer life. I'm going to go simple, stick with some faith and wonder. Just go ahead and research, quick look up or watch a little video on a Eucharistic miracle. There's plenty of just mind-boggling ones that you can look up. Just go on YouTube or go on Word on Fire, go on any of the sources that you can find and learn a little bit more. And just, if you're unfamiliar with some of the things we referenced or some of the, scientific evidence or just straight up miraculous nature of these things, just go ahead. It's well worth it. I told my wife as I was watching different videos leading up to this episode, I've heard a lot of it before and it never gets old. It's so exciting to just rehash it and go through it. So Michael, as we told you, and we'll tell you again, it's just been awesome to have you here, to get you. You're not going to be a one and done. You're gonna be back. And now that you've broken the ice,
regret that. Yeah.
Yep. You're back. Your wife's going to probably have to join.
All right. Awesome.
I think the ladies want to do like a ladies takeover.
Yeah.
So maybe they'll all jump in on that. But this has been awesome. And we will pray for you and your family. And guys, super exciting to kick off this new year at the Catholic Dad Pod. Y'all don't forget Word on Fire. Go check out our website. Just, send us some prayers too. We're grateful for every single one of them. Grateful for y'all listening. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Good to be back with y'all. Thank you, Michael. Love you, brother.
Thank you. Love you guys. Nice.
No papers.
No papers today. I know. Should have started off. You need to think of like some